taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance. Telling me to dance, taking a chance.
All right. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you all are back this week. Last week was our first time ever going live, and we had more than 1,000 views. So thank you all so much for your support. So thank you again for joining us Facebook Live. I'm here, Kathleen Grigsby, along with Dr. Lakeisha Sutton. We're back again. And for those of you who are seeing us for the first time today, each of us have over 20 years of experience in education with a combined 40 years. So we're here to, again, just talk about our Star Network Conference, which is March 6th, 2021. And that's a Saturday. So for those of you who want to join us, register, come on and come to starnetwork.org. Those were the questions we had last week, starnetwork.org. And we're going to do a shameless plug. Our wonderful cheerleader here. Come on.
Yes, we are live now. So if you are in the room, look, I need you to like, and I need you to join me right now in sharing this live broadcast. So do it right now. I'm doing it now. Like, hit the button. We know what to do. And then share right now. So all educators can come on in the room. Parents can come on in the room. Yeah. We are going to really talk about a topic that will be beneficial to educators as well as parents tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. And look, if you just want to put a question in the comments or maybe, state something that resonates with you, do that too. We want to make sure that we are interactive as much as possible during the Facebook Live. So right. Look, our conference, March 6th, Dr. Sutton is going to share with us the lineup. It's so exciting. And as soon as we do, we'll get right to it, talking about personalized learning.
Yes, so we have an exciting lineup for the conference on March 6th. So last week we talked about self-care. So we are going to start with self-care, social-emotional learning. And we talked about the importance of those practices and taking care of ourselves last week. So we have Tanja Morton, who we're excited about her presentation to talk to educators about how to take care of themselves in social-emotional learning. So we're going to kind of follow that up with some STEAM, right? Science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So we're going to have a session on that, ways to engage students in STEAM. I mean, that is the next step, right? To engage students in those processes. So then we're going to discuss personalized learning. So that is our topic for today. But we will have someone to go a little bit more in depth about personalized learning during that session and engage in a session with educators on that day. So after you've engaged in all of that, right, you're going to need a brain break. So we have the perfect brain break for you, right? We have Rita Brent, who's going to give you some comedic relief. She is going to give you a brain break. As you talk about social emotional learning, self-care, STEAM, and personalized learning, your brain is going to need some time to just, think about something different, right? So we have Rita Brent here to do that. So after that, we want to re-engage educators in professional learning. So we want to engage you in professional around technology. And we talked last week about how educators have had to pivot, right? We're moving from that face-to-face learning to, online platforms. We're going to just talk about some ways to engage students with technology. And we talked about coaching, right? Talked about, how I was once a cheerleader and how you need that person in your corner. So that is a very important component. It was pre-pandemic and definitely now, and it will be post-pandemic. So we have an awesome presenter here to come talk about needing a coach. And then we're going to end it by engaging some of our district level leaders, some of our superintendents in a panel discussion, right?
Yeah,
about
definitely.
Our communities, our students, our teachers, and our administrators during this pandemic, and what they envision for instruction and education to look like post-pandemic. And that will be moderated by Otha Kane. So I am ecstatic about that day and all of the learning and all of the resources, strategies that will be communicated that day. So again, if you have not liked and shared or have not registered, go ahead. It is going to be awesome.
Definitely. I always enjoy listening to Dr. Sutton. She just makes me smile with her energy that she has. But in transition, I want to give a shout out to all of our counselors. Last week was National School Counselors Week. And I have a very special shout out to Maybelline Grigsby. She is my mother in love. And she retired as a counselor. So just want to shout out all of our school counselors who do amazing work every day, all day. So shout out to them. With that said, we're going to talk about personalized learning. So last week we talked about self-care, talked about social, emotional. So this is a great transition in talking about personalized learning. So Keisha, y'all, I call her Keisha. Do you remember back in the day when we were in school and we had, this for all the parents out here, y'all might remember this, the red group, the bluebirds, the I don't know.
The lions, the tigers, and the bears. Oh my. We had all of these different groups, right? And one thing that you knew about that group, if you were a bluebird or if you were a tiger, you were that all year, right? So yes, we were definitely grouped. I don't remember what group I was in now. I don't remember if I was bluebird or redbird, but I knew I was in a group.
And we knew as children, and our children know now, if they are still in a classroom where they're being ability group like that. But that's not the most effective way of engaging our students. We're looking at more personalized learning. There's all different types of learning. And for those of you who are hearing, and within the last maybe 8-10 years, we started the tiered approach to education. So you've got students engaged in tier 1, which is your just everyday instruction, whole group, small groups, all of that. That's your tier 1. And then you have tier 2 and tier 3, which is remediation. But personalized learning is not remediation. It can be. Right. But it's not necessarily that. It's about catering and tailoring learning to individual students or small groups of students. And that's what at the conference we're going to talk about is how do we effectively do that in the pandemic? How can we ensure when I have half of my class here today, half of them here tomorrow, or if you're in a situation where you're simulcasting, or you have some of your children virtually, and then some in the classroom, how do we ensure that we're constantly personalizing learning? And so some of the things that we've just learned through this process is the pandemic is truly showed us some things. It showed schools and districts that we need to put equity back in the forefront. If it was not, we need to put equity back in the forefront. We need to look at each individual child's needs, their preferences, their goals, and their voice. because their voice in their learning matters. It does make me wonder, Keisha and I have talked about this. What would our students say if we surveyed our students, and I'm talking about all over the country, all over the world, what would they say has been the most effective piece of learning during the pandemic? And I think one of the things that they would say, they may not call it personalized learning, but they may say that, hey, I was given an opportunity to have choice in my assignments, or I was given the opportunity to have a voice in what was going on. So, this is, where the rubber is meeting the road here. Yeah.
And I agree with that. And when you talked about choice and voice, I think it's important that we discuss the fact that that's a tier 1 process, right? You talked about tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and we know, tier 1 is for all students, right? For every student. And then we have a more intensive intervention for tier 2 and tier 3. When we're looking at personalized learning, we're looking at remediation, we're looking at enrichment. It can be intervention, right? It can be intervention after we've gone through that tier 1 process and supported students with their either remediation or enrichment piece based on their skill deficit or, areas that they are very strong in, right? So I think, one of the important pieces that I often try to communicate, I try to communicate as a principal to my teachers is, personalized learning or differentiated instruction, all that's a tier 1 process, right?
Yeah. And it's a part of differentiating instruction.
Yes.
And sometimes we think that when we're differentiating, we're just working with skills that we're deficit in, right? But that's not the case. As we've talked before, and as you mentioned, that's not the case. Sometimes we're looking to grow students. So we put students in on an individualized path that constantly challenges them and grows them in an enriched way. So, but in order to have personalized learning, it takes quite a bit of data. So teachers are looking to partner with parents. Parents, what do you feel your child needs? So not only are they partnering with parents, they're partnering with maybe the interventionist at the school. What is the STAR data saying, or what is whatever program they're using? What is the MAP data saying? What data platforms are you using that will give us the information that we need to make some informed decisions about the personalized learning? And then you can't do that without technology necessarily,
So what I hear you saying is a lot of planning, right? And we know that one of the buzzwords or some of the things that we talked about is educators, professional learning communities, right? Also what I hear you saying is there have to be processes and procedures in place for this to occur, right?
Yeah.
So yes, we are taking a STAR assessment. Yes, I am planning for students, but yes, I have to look at that data, and planning for them takes time, right? So it's not a one shot, it's ongoing, but it is a weekly, bi-weekly process, right? And we talked about those groups, okay? We talked about the bluebirds and the redbirds and the lions and tigers and bears, right? But those groups have to be fluid in order for personalized learning to work, right? So if we're truly personalized learning and looking at students' skills, right, that should change on a regular basis, because you may have a student that has some severe deficits and is in one group for that skill, but they have a skill set in another subject area that's far beyond their skill set in the deficit area, right? So that takes planning, because I can't place, Lakeisha in a group in reading and placing the same group in math when she have different areas of strengths and weaknesses, right? So if we really personalize in learning, and we're just not grouping students by ability, we're utilizing data, we're purposeful in our planning, right?
Yeah.
Those groups are fluid, but it does take time, right? So it takes time to disaggregate and analyze all that data, to process it, to put it in some type of plan, grouping, student grouping processes to assess that learning. And guess what? We got to re-engage we back in the game. We got to re-engage in that process.
Yeah. And remember, so this reminds me, so if you missed out last week, Lakeisha and I have we started out as colleagues and we have been friends ever since, 20 plus years now. But when we were teaching across the hall from each other, do you remember as first grade teachers how once we got the data, and I don't know if we were ahead of our time or we were, just thinking outside of the box or what it was, but we were just truly led to even switch students across the hall and say, okay, I've got students that need this particular skill and you've got students. What are we doing? We need to switch this. This is before everybody had laptops and stuff in the classroom.
Right.
We need to switch students and provide targeted instruction in those skills. Now, at that time, it was probably a little bit more intervention than it is personalized learning. But fast forward 20 years, all the resources that we have, all the data, and it's so much easier. And that is what the presentation is going to be about with personalized learning, how we can make that so much easier for our teachers and more fun for our scholars. One of the questions that we have, this is great. Thank you all for your comments. Someone has asked if the conference that we have is only for Mississippi. No, the conference is not only for Mississippi. So if you have friends in other parts of the country, even internationally, who are interested in joining the conference, please send them to www.star-network.org. And we are happy to have them. We're starting out with the conversation about our state, but in time we feel like this will grow to be a regional and a nationwide conference. So, but no, since it's a virtual conference, we welcome everyone across the country to come. So so I see Erica Jones, you remember being a bluebird. I hope we're not aging ourselves.
Right. And one thing that we discussed too was, we discussed educators and personalized learning, but also I think sometimes as educators we use, a terminology that people outside of the field of education may not be able to relate to. So we discussed relating this to parents, right? So, anybody that knows me knows that I have 2 daughters.
Yeah.
They're mine, right? Same parents, we try to provide them with the same opportunity, but they are uniquely different, right? So even the way I parent them, when I think about personalized learning, I do personalized parenting, right? Because the strategies that I use for one child to get to a goal, I have to do something totally different for another child, right? So as parents, we kind of battle that, especially, parents who have, several children, because you have students or children with unique needs, but you have the same goal for them, right? So teachers do the same thing. We have the same goal for every student in 3rd grade, every student in 4th grade, every senior that's getting ready to college and career ready. But each child is uniquely different. So, as I'm thinking about how I juggle the demands of a parent of 2 children, just think about how our educators are juggling the demands of a classroom of 20 students or several classrooms of students, right? As you get to the secondary level, and they have several classrooms of students. I mean, they may be seeing up in excess of 100 students a day. So, you talked about having the different online platforms or adaptive platforms. All of those are vital in assisting us as educators, assist your child in reaching that ultimate goal. So whether that's, reading on grade level, being mathematically proficient on grade level, whatever that goal is.
You make me smile because I think because of the pandemic, I think we as educators have gained a greater appreciation from our parents, asking, how do y'all do this? I just have 1 or 2, or I have 3 or 4, and in some families 6. I don't know how you do it in the classroom. So again, our teachers, our educators, they are truly gems and miracle workers, constantly juggling so much at one time while keeping your child the main thing, we have someone commenting the same for administrators, juggling so much. So
it's true.
While in the conference, we're talking about personalized learning for students. When we think about coaching, right, and I'm getting into something that will come soon. When we talk about coaching, we have to do personalized coaching.
We do.
For administrators and as well as educators. So it just goes on and on, but we cannot tell you all how excited we are for our educators to get the information that's relevant, that's valuable, that's research-based, and that will really be a value-added component of this. So with that said, again, we're gonna have to go. We could probably talk all day long about this, but we have to go. But with that said, again, Dr. Sutton has laid out the agenda for you all. star-network.org is where you can register for the conference. And we'll be back. It seems like Monday's our day. So we'll be back next Monday discussing a different topic. And we might be able to get some of our presenters on to give you all a sneak peek. So anything else you want to say?
No, I'm just excited about the conference and the support and the strategy that we provided for educators. We're always learning and growing. So I'm excited. I can't wait till March 6th, right? I'm ready to attend the conference.
Thank you all so much. And for those of you who end up viewing it later, we still go back and look at the videos and the comments. So feel free, it's not too late. And we'll see you all next Monday at 7:30. Y'all take care.
Same place. Bye-bye.